Hi, you guys. Shannon Gardner here, just here with my morning cuppa. I'm still drinking my Tulsi tea. I'm recording this straight after the last episode that I did because I had some topics that I wanted to talk about. But the other chat that I did prior to this one just basically ended up mostly about Tulsi tea, about holy basil and other herbs. So rather than putting the chats into one long video, I decided that to make it into separate videos because the topics are quite different of what I actually wanted to talk about today. So I'm just putting them in separate episodes for that reason. So for today's episode, I wanted to talk about. Well, the first episode was actually a pretty heavy episode. Maybe it wasn't the best way to introduce the morning cuppa with Shannon. It was a very heavy episode because it talked about 3 of the deaths that happened in my family. And there was a couple things that I forgot to mention in that I wanted to mention, and that was one of them was about I'm going to make this brief because I have another topic I want to talk about today with you guys. But first, I just wanted to mention about my stepdad. One of the things I was going to mention in the first episode that I did was about, and this is, I thought I'd share this with you guys in case you're going through a similar situation with a loved one who is in a hospice in the final days of their life as well, because my stepdad went into a hospice so that he would feel more comfortable, into a more comfortable space of being looked after in the final days of his life. And my mom has been with my stepdad for over 25 years, since I was a teenager. And it's got to be longer than that. She said over 25 years. It's got to be longer than that. Anyway, I've been in Australia for almost 17. It's got to be longer than that. Anyway, my parents, not to get into too much personal detail, my stepdad and my mom, they decided to kind of like sort out the inheritance and things like that of their assets early on a couple years ago, so that when the time came where one of them passed away, things would happen a lot smoother for both sides. Because Chris is my stepdad, he has 2 adult children himself, and my parents, like my mom and my stepdad, they bought properties, they had rental properties together, they had assets and things together, and they wanted to make sure that both sides of the family were able to get their fair share of inheritance and things like that. So as a result, someone on my Chris's side, my stepdad, was the person that in my stepdad's final days was put in charge on paper to make the final decisions for his life and things like that. Certain decisions in case he was in a state where he wasn't able to make those decisions himself. And that person who was in charge of that doesn't particularly like my mom. And so, and part of the reason why I think that is, now I'm not that person, so I can't know 100% what they're feeling, and I don't pretend to, but I personally feel that it may be because this particular person came to live with my mom and stepdad Chris a period of time where that person was dealing with addiction and moved in with my parents. Otherwise, he would have been homeless, and who knows what would have happened to him. He had a really good job, like a really good, well-paying job, and then basically had to come and move in with my parents. And I actually was living with my step-parents, with my stepdad and my mom at the time as well, for part of the time where this person lived there. And at the same time, my sister was renting a house from one of the rental properties from that my mom and stepdad had were with her children. And so my the person in the family that was living on Chris's side of the family that was living with my mom and stepdad, he wasn't paying rent or anything like that. Like they were happy to help him, but with addiction and other things, it's really hard to help people like that because over time, like for such a long period of time, they don't really help themselves that much. And so um, my mom started to probably lose her patience a little bit, and I actually don't blame her because, um, especially the fact that her daughter was paying rent at one of their other properties with children, doing the right thing, and then having a single bloke who isn't working, who is dealing with addiction but can't get his shit together type thing. And I know it's really hard for people with addiction, so I don't have any judgment towards him or anything like that, because I know addiction is really hard for people and it can take years and years and years to finally get back on your feet. It can go one way or the other. You can go to rock bottom, or you can, you can sink or swim situation. And so no judgment there or anything like that. I'm just saying that, you know, um, I don't think he was very happy with the help that he was given, by my mom, and, resents her and just doesn't like her because of, my mom's a very hardworking person, and sometimes people have to use tough love in certain circumstances, to help people. And there's only so much people of time and so much of what other people can do for people with addiction. And if they're not helping themselves and not willing to put the work in, then that can be very draining for people who have to try and help those people. So not only does it affect them, it can affect the whole family. It can affect the people, loved ones around them who are trying to help them as well, right? And so as a result, this person who was in a position to make some decisions for my stepdad did not like my mom. And so my mom, was there helping my stepdad to get into bed. He's very heavy to get into bed. He's a very tall person to get into bed at night, and things like that. She was visiting him, putting him to bed every night, and helping him and visiting him every day. And they then moved him to a hospice because I thought that it would be a lot better care there. But what happened at the hospice is that the hospice, because my mom and stepdad aren't married, but they have been common law for over 25 years, they treated my mom basically like dog shit. And excuse my language, but they really did. And they were only letting my mom come in for a 10-minute visit a day, which is absolutely disgusting behavior on their part of the hospice, on the staff members' part there. I'm so disgusted. My mom didn't tell me this until after my stepdad passed away. And I spoke to her, and I'm absolutely disgusted at the way that they treated my mom. And this went on for days. And for those who didn't watch my first episode, my stepdad was, a few weeks ago, was not feeling well. He went to the hospital and they ran some tests and told him that he had 1 to 2 weeks to live. And so they put my mom through this for days, where they only let her come for a 10-minute visit. And the reason why they were doing that as well and treating her that way was, and the same was like with my siblings and things like that too, and other people, family members who weren't this one person who made decisions. And finally, my stepdad, who was very ill when he was feeling up to speaking, told the staff members at the hospice that my mom could come whenever she wants and stay as long as she wants and be there all the time and as long as she wants. And so finally, after my stepdad told them that, because my stepdad didn't know really what was happening at first for a few days, they finally let my mom come and visit more often and stay longer. And she was able to stay overnight, like on the couple nights leading up to when he passed away. And my mom called me, so I didn't know any of this until after my stepdad passed away. And what I want to say is I'm disgusted by the behavior of the staff members who treated my mom and my siblings that way, and especially my mother, who has been in a common law relationship with my stepdad for over 25 years and has looked after him for most of that time. And yeah, I'm just absolutely disgusted. And I know that nurses and doctors, medical staff, they get desensitized to death. And especially if you're a nurse or doctor who is working, a staff member who's working at a hospice where all of your patients end up dying, of course there's going to be some sort of desensitization that these people have towards death. And my mom is a nurse. She's been a nurse at the same hospital since she was 19 or 20. She's retired but still works casually. And she's in her 70s. And my sister is a nurse as well. I know from them the desensitization that goes on with patients, but they both are very good nurses who give really good care to patients and who are really caring to their patients. And I'm so disgusted by nurses and doctors and staff members who treat patients in hospitals like crap and make their experience so much harder. And so if you're a nurse or doctor or a staff member who works in a hospital or works somewhere or in a hospice, I encourage you to be more humble and be more considerate of the feelings of both your patients and the family members of the patients, because people are not in the hospital because they're healthy and they feel good. They're there because they don't feel well, or they're in pain, or they've had an accident and need surgery. They're not there because they're on a holiday or a health retreat somewhere, you know. And it really disgusts me when I hear about people not treating patients very well in hospitals. It's just disgusting to me. Anyway, there was something else I was going to say about it. Just forgotten about that experience. It was kind of important as well, about that. Oh, yeah. So what happened was my mom called me a couple days before my stepdad passed away, and it was nighttime here, and she called me and asked me if I could speak to my stepdad. She said that like he had pretty much spoken to everyone they could think of, and if I could, but he had only spoken to me a little bit and asked if I could speak to him, and maybe by speaking to me it might help him to cross over, or maybe he might feel more at peace that he got to talk to everyone. There was also one person that he didn't get to speak to, and that was his daughter. And that was because she No one's really seen her in the family for years. So that's actually really sad as well. Really wish that they had have maybe been able to speak before he passed, but that didn't happen. So that's really sad. I didn't learn that until after he passed away either. So I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, I got to have a really lovely chat with him and just thank him for like everything he's done for me in my life. And I spoke about a lot of different like beautiful memories that we had, and then I said a few words about passing over and not being afraid, and letting him know that like we're all going to be okay, like everyone that he's left behind, we're all going to be okay. And that I know that I'm going to see him again one day, that it's just going to be like a little bit of a time separation of not seeing us for a little bit, but we're going to see him again soon. And that, you know, that he would probably see some loved ones on the other side who have already passed away that will hopefully be there to greet him on the other side. And that hopefully passing over will feel like going home and just like a bunch of stuff to him. So I'm really thankful that I got to talk to him. So when my mom had called me, she said she was awake for over 40 hours because she didn't want to miss the passing of my stepdad, and she was at the hospice with him, and there was another bed there, so she showed me the bed that she had slept in that night. And then she said she finally fell asleep and got like 10 hours of sleep. And so yeah, wait, there was something else I wanted to tell you guys about this. What was it? I'm trying to think. Oh yeah. So basically, after getting off the phone with my mom, because my stepdad was really drugged up, and she was like, you know, Chris is really drugged up, but he can hear you. He's just like in a really deep sleep coma type thing. And so I spoke to him. Obviously, he didn't answer me back, but he was so drugged up, so drugged up. And my thought was, did they drug him too early? Did they drug him too early? I got that message, that intuition come to me to say that I think that they drugged him too early. And I'm going to say, I think, because I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I don't have proof of anything, blah, blah, blah. But my opinion, my thought that came to me was, did they drug him too early? It's been 40 hours and he was conscious. They drugged him while he was conscious and able to speak still. Then drugged him some more, which basically put him into this coma. And he was alive still. And obviously not able to talk and communicate back to people. And normally, what happens when people are kind of at the end of their time, usually in cases, sometimes they will give them something like morphine or something right when they're near the end. And once they give them the morphine, oftentimes with these heavy drugs, oftentimes it doesn't take very long after having these drugs for them to slip away and pass away. Well, it was taking a long time for that to happen, longer than it usually does with my stepdad. And so my thought of getting off the phone with my mom and talking to him, knowing how long he had been drugged up like that and hadn't passed away yet, my thought was, did they drug him too early? It almost seems like they may have drugged him too early, and he's just laying there all drugged up. And I thought, maybe if they reduced the amount of drugs they've been putting on him, maybe that's why he hasn't passed, is because maybe he's like waiting for the drugs to wear off so that he can talk like to people again a little bit. Maybe he has something else to say before he passes away. So anyway, I got off the phone with my mom, but that was my thoughts. And then it still took like over 2 days after that for my stepdad to finally pass. And then I woke up in the morning, my mom had sent me a message to say that Her captain's ship had sailed basically um, to new waters, and then he had passed. And anyway, I spoke to my mom. Um, I spoke to her like a few times, but a few days after his passing, I spoke to my mom and had like just to see, like, I wanted to call her, see how she was feeling with everything, and see how she's doing. And I'm going to continue to call her every couple days to check in on her and see how she's doing, because it's a big adjustment for her. And and we had such a beautiful chat, like talk, and she told me about what happened with the hospice and how poorly they treated her, and how for a few days they only let her see him for like 10 minutes, which is absolutely disgusting. And and I didn't mention anything to my mom about wondering whether they drugged him too early. I never said anything up to her about it or made the suggestion to her, because I didn't want to upset her or cause trouble, or you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't want to like cause drama. So I didn't say anything to her. But lo and behold, during our conversation, what my mom told me was that one of the doctors came in, and Chris was, talking fine and having conversations with people, my stepdad, and that the doctor said, I'm going to give you this drug now. And uh, Chris basically said he didn't need it. He didn't feel like he needed it at the time, that he, didn't need to have it, didn't want to take it at the time. And the doctor basically said to him, allegedly, supposedly, I'm going to say, is that he said, well, if you don't take it orally, we're going to force it into you another way. And my stepdad said to the doctor, allegedly, supposedly, he said, well, don't hurry my death. My stepdad knew that they were trying to drug him, and he felt as though they were trying to hurry his death. And he said, well, don't hurry my death, because he didn't want it. So he felt pressured to take it. And after he took that, he never woke up again. He was put into basically a coma. He didn't get to speak after that to anyone because he was so drugged up. And he stayed in that state for days until he finally passed away. And what did the doctor say, reply to him? He laughed at my stepdad. He laughed at him, which I think is so disgusting, because my stepdad wasn't joking. That is not something to joke about. He was not joking. He was dead serious, and the doctor laughed at him. So yeah, I know there are so many people who have had difficult situations while being in the hospital. I had a horrible experience when I had my second child at a hospital in Melbourne. It was at the Women and Children's Hospital, actually. An absolute horrible experience with the staff there and the way that they treated me during that time. And that was I'm always like so respectful to the nurses, and I don't ask them for anything unless I really need to, when I'm staying in hospital and things like that, because I know they're busy. My mom's a nurse. My sister's a nurse. I've heard all the stories for years, my entire childhood. I've heard the stories, right? About the environment that they work in and how stressful it is and things like that. But like, it's just disgusting how some of them staff just go to work and treat it like a job. And they're just like, I implore you to have just more compassion for the people that are in the hospital, for the patients and the family members. And especially at hospice, like, come on. Like, this is the last days, and for them to treat my mom like that, I'm absolutely disgusted. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys about that. So that's kind of another heavy one, but it's common. It's like, it's not normal. It's common. Sorry, I'm just having a laugh because in my last video we talked about how oftentimes doctors will say things are normal, but they're not normal. They're just common in people in society, and certain people will confuse common with normal, or normal with common. So yeah. So that happened, and I just wanted to tell you guys about that. So yeah. So what else is new? It's finally autumn here in Australia. I'm able to wear a jumper finally. The summers are so stinking hot here, and I find the summers just really hard to deal with. Although there's a helicopter going above. Although I have to say the summers are still a lot easier to deal with than, say, minus 30-degree weather that some people experience in the northern hemisphere. So even though I complain about the heat of the summer, I'd still much rather deal with it than, say, minus 30, minus 40-degree weather. The driving conditions are much easier too here. So yeah, I might just leave it at there for that one, and then I will record another episode with what I wanted to talk to next, because I thought that was just going to be like a brief little topic that a brief little add-in that I was gonna add in from my first episode, but it turned out to be quite a long topic in itself. So I will talk to you guys on the next one. See you soon. Bye.